Hi, I'm Erica from Accuquilt.
And I'm Edyta Sitar from Laundry Basket Quilt.
We are so excited to have you here in our studio today with your butterfly quilt.
Thank you for having me. I can't wait to make some butterflies with you and have them fly all over our table.
I can't either.
Onto our quilts.
Let's get started.
Perfect. So when you start up your butterfly project, you need some fabrics. And
we have some great fabrics you brought right here.
Exactly. Those are as example of a layer cake. In this layer cake, I have many fun, colorful pieces of batiks. I like using batiks for the butterfly design. It just gives a really nice, fun look to it. I like the layer cakes because there are 10-inch squares in it. I take my fabrics, and from each of the fabric, I'm gonna cut off a 1.5-inch strip.
Okay.
Those strips, we're gonna use it for our 9 patches later on.
Perfect.
We can also cut the strips with another die, 1.5-inch strip
with
die.
the strip die.
Yeah,
perfect.
They're excellent for that. And I actually love cutting just strips and having them ready for any of my projects. Love that die.
Great, I do too.
So now we just cut some off. Next step, we're going to layer the fabric with a fusible webbing. There's many fusible webbing on the market. The ones that I like are the lightweight heat and bound or feather light heat and bound. In this case, I have the lightweight heat and bound. We have to remember not to overpress so the fabric doesn't, the fusible webbing doesn't come through the fabric. Just
so it's
gently.
Easier to sew?
Oh yes, not only easier to sew, but also easier to cut. If you overpress, then it gets hard, and it's hard to cut, hard to sew. So less is better. Just gentle press.
Great.
And I prepare 2 pieces right here. I'm gonna place them together. I like to cut as many as 4 layers at once, and I'm gonna fold them in half, just like this.
Okay.
Okay. And now I am ready to take my die. Look at this. I have my die. Those are my butterfly wings. This is the bottom, this is the top, and this is the body.
And we have one in a package over here.
Yes.
It's just
right
beautiful.
Here. And in the back of the package, you see our quilt that we're going to be making right now, as well as some suggestion of other ways to use that die.
That's right. The pattern's right there.
Yes. So I'm going to take my die, layer the fabric right on the top, just like this. Use my little mat, and when I'm gonna cut this, I'm gonna get all the shapes already reversed for me, really nice. Okay.
Here we go.
Yes. Just have to push. Didn't do that. Oh, I can already hear it and feel it, how nicely it's cutting. Oh, this is gonna be wonderful. So immediately, as you open, see, look at wings right there.
It is, right there.
So when you open it up, you have all your beautiful shapes. And I just love this part. Look at this. And did you notice when I folded fabric, I got a left and a right image?
That's perfect.
Yes, yeah, we want the 4 wings, and I got multiple colors right away. So I could have one butterfly that it's yellow and one butterfly that it's blue. Yes.
Or you could
mix and match. So look at this.
That's great.
Just switch it, and now I have already enough pieces for 2 different butterflies.
Wow.
I also have pieces cut for the body of my butterfly, and we could use a different variety of colors. This time for this quilt, I decided to use a little bit of a brown, and I custom cut those pieces. So what I did is take my die and only place the brown over the body part and then cut it.
And then cut it,
yes.
sure.
I have some already here, ready, set, go for us. Let me show you. This is so much fun. And what I'm gonna do,
look how pretty it is.
I'm gonna prepare them. I cut a background square, then I'm gonna center my pieces and lay them.
How big is your background square?
The background square is going to be 9.5.
So you cut the same?
No, I usually cut 10 and then I trim it down after the applique is complete. So cutting a 10 gives you a little bit room to, if you will not center or something fray, and with a gentle crease, just like this. Look at how nicely separate the fusible.
That's wonderful.
Yes, paper, and then you can place your pieces right here, one after the other. Oh, this is such a great moment. Your pieces, look at the edges, how nice.
They're so crisp and clean.
Yeah. They're gonna be perfect for fusible applique because when you stitch around them, you don't want them to be fraying. And sometimes when you cut with scissors, the fraying would occur.
Exactly.
With the dies, we would not have that. So once I have all my pieces put in place, I'm gonna use the iron and press it. As soon as I finish pressing, I'm ready for the next step.
So it's time to sew.
Yes, time to sew. If we're gonna be appliquing this in place, we can use different techniques. And I just prepare a few options for us today. My personal favorite and one of the fastest one is to use nylon invisible thread, and then we're gonna use cotton thread in a bobbin.
Okay.
So there is always a cotton thread in a bag, and I'm gonna use a zigzag stitch. Zigzag stitch, it's gonna hold my piece in place, secure nice, and with a nylon invisible thread, the stitch is gonna hide. And you can use nylon or polyester invisible. There is many different threads on the market. Right here, I have a Orifil nylon invisible thread. I have experimented with it. It will not melt away when you press it after your project is done.
Oh, perfect.
I have two different colors for the bobbin because I want to just point it to you guys that if you're going to use a lighter background, use the lighter thread. I like to use a nice tea dye backgrounds, and the 2370 matches very nice with it. And also when I'm stitching, none of the threads show on the top because it has that really nice tea dye color to it. So 2370 would be my favorite. So this is a zigzag that we did. We have to remember that when we're using nylon invisible thread, we have to lower the tension on our machine. The size of our zigzag should be at least 1 inch width, 1/8, not 1 inch, 1/8 of an inch width, simply because when you zigzag around the edges, you want to grab at least 1/8 and hold it in place.
Be sure it's secure.
Yes. If you like this stitch and you want to show the stitch a little bit more, you can use the zigzag stitch and use a cotton thread on the top, cotton thread in a bobbin. So in this case, we would not use this thread. And then I'm using the Jelly Bean Collection pack. It's 5 threads, and that's what I use on this quilt right here. Notice it, how beautifully all
they're
the
just
color
perfect.
matches. Yeah, so with one package, you have your brown for the body of the butterflies, and this would be your wings. Yeah. And what I like to do is, I sometimes match to the fabric, or sometimes I use a complement color. So if it's a blue, I use an orange to give a little bit more flavor to it. Yeah. Also, another stitch that it could add to our design is the blanket stitch.
That's my favorite.
Is it?
It is. I love that for my applique.
See, I like that too. It does add to the design, and it feels nice, and it gives a great finish for the fusible applique. So we're doing fusible applique with a finish edge right now, because we're using a stitch to finish the edges, to cradle them, so they don't fray for us. And in this case, again, you can use a complementary color, or you can use something that would contrast a little bit and give a little bit more flavor to it. Another way, and this blanket stitch is the one that I used on the quilt behind us. Yeah, on all the edges around the butterfly. Many different machines have the stitch on it, and you can just use the standard stitch that the machine comes with it, or you can customize, make a little closer together. I like to be at least 1/8 inch again.
Again, so we're well anchored.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Another way of securing our beautiful pieces in place is with a just regular straight stitch. This technique calls raw edge applique. Because we're not putting the stitch on the edges, we're putting 1/8 into the applique, and the edges are being left raw, and with time they're gonna pick up a little bit, fray just a little bit, but again,
give a little dimension.
Yes. Yeah.
Very nice.
If you're making this quilt for a baby quilt, the cotton thread is the way to go. I would not recommend to use the invisible thread. I think for babies, always the softest, the nicest things are the best. So the cotton thread would be the best. straight stitch, blanket, or zigzag. So that's my recommendation.
Okay.
We cannot forget the needle. When we start applique, make sure you change your needle for a nice fresh needle, and I'm using the Macrotex needle. It gives me great stitches.
All right,
so that's something we need to remember. If this selection of colors is not enough for us, let's move on.
Over here.
Yeah, and there are bigger boxes, and then you get even more colors.
Right.
Yeah. So, but now our blocks are completed. We have made 20 for this quilt. Let's talk about some other pieces that are in this quilt. So we have our blocks done. Another part of the quilt is going to be the cornerstones right here.
And those are so cute.
Yes.
I'm
They're
anxious to see this.
9-patch daisies. Oh, and I just adore them. So 9-patch daisy are made from 9 little squares. And remember, we cut the strips.
Right, those are the strips we had.
Or you could have used the ones you cut with your die.
Perfect.
Yep, 1.5-inch die. Once you have them cut to little squares, you're gonna sew them 2 rows, and this is gonna be row 1, row 2, row 3. As soon as we finish those.
Perfect. And here, let's go to our next.
Yes, our next step, and let's take this off the paper so you can see it a little bit better. Right here, I have sewed 2 rows together.
Okay.
I saved this row because the next step, I'm gonna sew this row here. And notice I have this cute little branch and a stem and a leaf. In case you wonder where I got this from, I use my Simple Shapes. This is like my favorite die because I can use it with many different projects.
It's very versatile.
It really is. You could even take that little birdie and add it someplace sitting on those little flowers. So I took that die and I cut a bunch of stems and leaves. And now again, with just a simple pull away, just like that, I'm gonna lay all my pieces.
Okay.
Fuse them in place, stitch around the edge. Once it's finished stitching, that's what I'm gonna sew
then you'll
that
sew
together.
the top on.
Yeah, because that way this beginning will set in right into the seam, and I have a wonderful one done already right here for us. So there it is.
That is darling.
Once our sashings and cornerstones are prepared, we are ready for the next step, putting the quilt together. Yes, we're gonna grab some more sashings.
Wonderful.
We're gonna sew them to the top to the blocks.
Okay.
The side.
And then the side.
Yep. We're gonna make rows. Once the rows are completed, just like we have it in the quilt right here, we're gonna sew rows together and then proceed into finishing the quilt by quilting and putting a binding. One more comment to it. Notice it that the stems weave left and right. No worry that you have to reverse the design or do anything. All of the designs on the Simple Shapes are already designed that they can go left and right just by flipping them back and forth. So notice it, I could have this way, or I can place it this way, and it will work just wonderful.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your butterfly quilt with us.
Oh, it is my pleasure. Do you want to see something fun with this design?
I do. Show me.
So, in case you want to do something just quick for maybe a little placement, you can make one daisy, and let's just grab one wing and one wing for the top. Add the little butterfly here, and notice that this one is just resting on the top of the floor.
Thank you for being in here with our studio and sharing this with us. For more inspiration, be sure to check our website. We also have our blog. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So remember, with Accuquilt, you can cut time so you can quilt more, and
better cuts make better quilts.